wherever you may be and however you may be listening live. Hour number 2 in Los Angeles, iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. 5 minutes from now, less than 5 minutes, 3 minutes from now, Greg Cosell, our NFL meat sandwich. There's literally not a better 10 minutes on television, sports television in America, if you love the NFL, than Greg Cosell. He just breaks down the tape. There's no BS. He's totally honest, totally objective. Joy Taylor is joining me, hour number 2. I'm going to go on a rant here for a couple of minutes, just a couple of minutes. Joy, just a couple minutes.
Okay, give a few minutes.
Okay. Nick Saban, story came out yesterday. He makes $8.3 million at Alabama. Don't pay the players. I mean, guys, too much money. He's underpaid. He's underpaid. Nick Saban's underpaid. 10 titles in 5 years. He gets 7% of their football revenue. Alabama football revenue makes $108 million a year. His salary is 7%. Hell, I tip my waitress at Applebee's 22%. He makes 7% of Alabama. And for the record, that's just of Alabama football revenue. Alabama football revenue, he makes 7% of it. 5 titles. Well, he's at a big national power. They all win. Really, USC winning right now? Texas winning right now? Florida winning right now? Tennessee winning right now? Michigan winning titles right now? You think LSU's going to knock down a couple titles with Ed Orgeron? What are you talking about? National powers? Georgia doesn't have a national title in forever. Give me a break. Just because you're a national power, Alabama was a mess before he got there. They've had no NCAA baggage, and he takes a whopping 7% of revenues. I'm not even counting the increase in admissions since he came to Alabama. We've had studies on this, that when football teams win, like USC wins or Oklahoma wins, the admissions go up. You get 15,000 more kids want to be in your school. I'm not even counting those $42,000 a year checks from students. If I did, he'd be making about 2% of revenues at Alabama. This guy, Nick Saban, should open up one of those GoFundMe accounts. Give me a break. Oh, he's underpaid. Oh, it's too much money. What about the players? What about them? What about the players? Kansas basketball and Alabama football, they're filling stadiums for the last 100 years. Tim Tebow's the only college player in my life where literally he was selling merchandise, millions of dollars of merchandise. I mean, like Tim Tebow was his own industry. Hell, he's still his own industry. But if I have to hear again about, these college coaches make so much money, he makes 7% of football revenues. Now, I'll criticize Nick Saban. He goes to the podium 3 times a year and complains about stuff, yesterday he went on the podium to complain about stuff. Let me blast him for this because he's totally wrong on this.
With Tua's success this season, how cool is it for you to see your fans kind of support him with things like Lay's and Hawaiian shirts and game day?
Well, I think it's great. I think that, I think what makes this a special experience here is when we have, great support from everybody in the program, everybody that supports the program, all of our fans, all of our students. I can honestly say I was a little disappointed that there weren't more students at the last game. When I first came here, we used to play that tradition thing up there, and everybody was cheering and excited and happy, and there was great spirit. All right, now they don't even cheer. They introduce our players, nobody even cheers. And if that's not here, then does it continue to be special to be here or not? To see half the student section not full, I've never seen that since I've been here before.
Yeah, because the students are tired of you scheduling Louisiana Monroe at home. Alabama plays at least 3 cupcakes every year at home. They get a bye right before Auburn. They won't go on the road out of conference. It's always a neutral field. His first 5 years, he wasn't as dominant, was he? Because he went on the road for out-of-conference games. Listen, Nick, okay, this is college football. You totally control your schedule. You schedule Panera Bread, twice a year. That's what you get. I mean, seriously, this is what you get. Now, the fans show up for the good games because the students aren't stupid. They know when you're challenged. But that's totally on Nick. He totally completely controls the schedule. He won't go on the road for out-of-conference games. He hasn't done that in a half-decade. He always puts buys in front of the big ones. It's funny, the coincidence. He's always got a bye before LSU or a bye before Auburn. It's funny how it works. And he plays Panera Bread 3 times a year. That's on you. All right, from that, we go to an NFL meat sandwich, my favorite guy every week, 40 years NFL films, Greg Cosell is joining us. Greg, how are you?
I like Panera Bread, Colin.
The Citadel, Arkansas State, Ragin' Cajuns. Come on, do better.
Come on. Everybody needs a good game against McNeese State once in a while.
Let's start with this. Patrick Mahomes. Good Lord. He's Marino. He's Favre. I mean, listen, he's talented. He hasn't played in the snow yet, and he plays in Kansas City. What's the tape say?
Well, I just have a question. Are we ready right now to put Pat Mahomes in an historical context after 4 starts this year and 1 start last year? He's played exceptionally well. That's tough to argue. Last week, he in the fourth quarter, he did a lot of what he did in college, which was play randomly outside of structure and make tremendous downfield throws. That's a strength of his game. But I think it's a little premature to put him in historical context. One can always talk about skill sets and traits. Obviously, there was a reason. People did not see him as the number 1 pick in a draft. I think it's too early to say that, everybody made a mistake. So I think we can talk about his performance to this point, but I think the historical context needs a little more time, don't you?
Yeah, he plays in a cold weather city. He's yet to see a hailstorm. I always say when you're playing outdoors in bad weather, the season to me doesn't start till Thanksgiving. So let's just see him. And Andy Reid's teams, by the way, historically start very, very well in September. If the Patriots win tonight, and I suspect they will, the Colts are all banged up. It's in Foxborough. And Miami loses Sunday to the Bengals. I think they will. New England will once again lead their division. So, let's not overreact here. But I did think without Julian Edelman, they were pretty sparse on the perimeter with dynamic playmakers, and I think their running backs are kind of average. But they did draft a kid from Georgia, Sony Michel. Is he going to matter? Because he looked like he mattered this past week.
He did. And they chose to make him matter. And I like Michel, I guess, more than you do. I liked him coming out quite a bit. What was interesting with what they did, and you and I both know Belichick, that he could never do this again the rest of the season because he plays week to week. But in this particular game, what he did was he lined up with a fullback. Michel had 25 runs in this game. 19 of them had the fullback Devlin on the field. That's very rare in today's NFL, and that's what he chose to do. There was something about Miami's defense that he felt he could do that and be effective doing it.
Yeah, but like you said, he may never do it again, but, that's what Bill does better than anybody. So I said in the preseason, I don't take much from preseason, but Baltimore's first team lines, I said, what? I'm going to take a little out of Baltimore's preseason. They look pretty good to me, and I also think Joe Flacco, when inspired, tends to be a better. He's not as aspirational as Brady. He doesn't wake up every morning wanting to be the greatest ever, but when pushed, he can be good. So what's the film say on Joe Flacco's resurgence?
I think Joe Flacco, the last 2 weeks, Colin, has thrown the ball exceptionally well, maybe better than I can recall in the last number of years. And people forget about Flacco. Flacco is a big man with a very strong arm. And velocity is not measured in how far you can throw a football. Velocity in the NFL is measured on certain kinds of throws, like deep digs that you have to throw between defenders and before a safety attacking it from up high. Those are arm strength throws. Flacco has always had tremendous arm strength. Now, I don't know if it was on him or whether he was coached this way, but he sort of became a guy who wouldn't push the ball down the field. Now he's pushing the ball down the field more and throwing with tremendous accuracy.
Yeah. By the way, the Steelers, everybody's talking about Le'Veon Bell, got to bring him back. I mean, you're watching the film. How much is tape? Is he missed? James Conner seems, he's fine.
Well, but here's the way I would answer that. And it's very difficult to quantify, but my guess is this is true. I think Le'Veon Bell is a player that defenses game plan for. I don't think James Conner is.
Okay.
So, again, without knowing exactly a defensive coordinator's game plan approach from Wednesday to Friday, my guess is that he's game planned for, so that impacts how you allocate your defensive resources and players, and that does impact Antonio Brown.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I also think he's a tremendous wide receiver. I mean, he had like 80 catches last year.
Right.
That's fairly profound historically. So, listen, we know that Dak Prescott doesn't have Dez and Witten. We know his rookie year. I mean, listen, I didn't like him out of college. I thought he was a better Tebow. I didn't like his throwing motion or his accuracy, and he got beat up a lot in Mississippi State, so I wasn't high on him. And then he shocked me in year one. He really shocked me. And now I look at him and I think, God, he's got a really low ceiling. He's not that accurate after his primary guys cut off. I mean, what is the big difference year one to now? Is it just no Dez and no Witten? Is that it?
Well, I think that his rookie year, everything was pristine. Great back, great O-line, Dez still playing well, Witten critical to his success. I think that for Dez to be successful, the Cowboys need to be a balanced offense, as they were this past week. If they have success running the ball, then that changes everything for Dak. And we've talked about him before. He's not exceptionally accurate. He's an NFL quarterback, so he can make throws. I mean, he hit Gallup this past week on a go route, a fade route, beautifully thrown ball. He certainly made a great throw to Elliott, beautifully designed play based on what they were getting in overtime from the Lions defense with the linebacker covering Elliott, which had happened for about 5 plays before that last one. So it was a great call by Scott Linehan. But he can make throws. I just don't think he's consistent enough where if he has to drop back 35, 40 times every week, he can be your guy.
You know, I want to talk. It's really interesting because football is the only sport. Greg Cosell, NFL Films, 30 years. Football is the only sport where you practice 6 to 7 times more than you play.
Yeah.
It really is. It's the only sport like that. It's a lot of practice for very little playing. I mean, baseball is the exact opposite. So Aaron Rodgers has not practiced as much lately. Is he said this week we weren't acceptable, our offense wasn't acceptable. Is it just that he's not practicing enough, or does the tape say something about the Packers offense?
Well, he did not have a strong game this week. He was not sharp throwing the ball. He missed some routine throws. Their pass game normally is not very rhythmic, but there's normally, when he's healthy, second reaction explosive pass plays that compensate. They're not getting those now because his knee is obviously a bit of an issue. Rodgers, and we've discussed this, Colin, for me, is a very, very difficult evaluation because he's in rhythm when he's moving and out of rhythm when he's playing from the pocket, which is the exact opposite of most quarterbacks. And I know I've said this to you before, he's more jazz musician than classical pianist. He's like I said, he's in rhythm when he's playing on the move as opposed to within structure.
Yeah. He's really a different cat. I think his personality is different. His style is different.
Yep.
So you and I have had conversations about Mitch Trubisky mostly off the air, and I think both of us think he's okay. But coaching matters. Jeff Fisher to Sean McVay, Jared Goff, it matters. Mitch Trubisky had just a fantastic game, and Bear fans are piling on me. They're like, Colin, you're a hater on this guy. And I'm like, listen, I watched the Bears play with Matt Nagy, Greg, and they look clever. It's like they're using a different playbook than everybody. There's motions in different sets. I mean, what do you make of his 6-touchdown performance? What do you make of it?
I'll just tell you what the tape showed. I mean, it was an outstanding conceptual game plan by Nagy and the Bears' offensive coaching staff. They played a defense in the Bucs. There's not a lot of mystery. They play a ton of zone concepts, cover 3 and cover 4. There are certain route concepts that break that down. The Bears went and used those route concepts all game, and the Bucs never made an adjustment. Quite honestly, they should have made an adjustment. I was surprised watching the tape. Now, you still have to make the throws. So we give Trubisky credit for that. But he made the throws that were defined and clean based on the route concepts versus those particular zone coverages.
Yeah, I'm watching. He did make a couple of nice throws, Greg.
Without question.
Yeah, he made a couple of it's kind of funny to watch.
There were a ton of cover 3 and cover 4 beater route concepts, and they kept getting the same coverage, and they kept beating it, and he made the throws.
Yeah. So I watched Josh Rosen. I was very interested to watch him play against Seattle, and I got to tell you, I was kind of impressed. There was a couple of drops. I thought he
big drops.
I thought he looked pretty good. Did you?
Yeah, I thought he looked really good. And he looked like he did in college to me. There was a refinement. There was a nuance to his game in the pocket. He threw the ball with consistent accuracy, made some big throws, plays from the pocket extremely well, has a calm helmet, but yet went through progressions. I thought he threw the ball really well. And it's interesting when you see a quarterback that plays with a refined sense of timing, how all of a sudden the offensive line looks a little better.
Yes. Now explain that, because that was my first takeaway. It's like, how come he's getting protection? Why is that?
Well, quarterbacks who play with a lot of rhythm and timing and get the ball out within the structure of the design play always make an O-line look better. It's the reason that quarterbacks who move around a lot get sacked more. It's a reason why Russell Wilson gets sacked a lot, Deshaun Watson gets sacked a lot, because they move often prematurely and they break down their own pass protection.
Well, I'm glad you liked him, because I thought he had a couple of bad drops. I thought he played really, really well. I think they need some help on that offensive front.
Without question.
Yeah, it's not a great offensive line. All right, your play of the week. It's the Rams, which I'm excited for because again, fun concepts. There's some college stuff they do with the running game I like. They're the best watch right now in the league. So here you go. Go for it.
Oh, they're a lot of fun to watch. So let's start the play. This was the touchdown to Robert Woods. It was a seam ball, and it was a beautiful throw. Goff's accuracy has improved so much this year. He's really precise. But I loved what they did. They shifted Gurley out wide as the number one receiver to the boundary, okay? So it's an empty set. So Anthony Barr and Holton Hill, what the Vikings did is they bumped out. So the corner went out over Gurley, and now you had a linebacker Barr over Woods, okay? So they noticed that right away. So what you're going to get is what we call 4 vertical routes. It's 4 verts. That's what they're running here. Pre-snap, 2 deep safeties with Andrew Sendejo and Harrison Smith. But now, just before the snap, they rotate. So Smith drops down, Sendejo goes into the deep middle, away from Woods. So now Woods is running a vertical route with a linebacker Barr on him. That's the throw. So that's exactly where Goff threw it. And as I said, the ball placement just outstanding. He's so much better this year at that and at late in the down pocket movement. He's clearly improved in those 2 areas.
God, they're so much fun to watch. It must be fun to watch their film.
It's so much fun to watch their film. Their route concepts, what they do, they have a distinct profile. I could almost describe them as being very simple and very detailed at the same time.
You know, it's funny. Somebody asked me the other day about them. I said, in a weird way, they're kind of a power running team.
Well, everything starts with the outside zone run game because that's what they work off of. Goff on first down this year, Colin, is 46 for 56 on first down.
Wow. Greg Cosell, great talking to you.
Thanks, Colin. Appreciate it.
Coming up next, if you hear something over and over, even if it can't be verified, it is true. It is. And that's coming up next. Heads up, everybody. You probably heard it by now, but hackers got into Facebook, potentially exposing personal info of nearly 50 million accounts. Hackers stole access tokens, and they could hold that over people. They had to pay to get their access back. Listen, with your personal info, criminals can open data breaches, get your accounts, file tax returns. Scary. Good thing new LifeLock identity theft protection adds the power of Norton security. Okay? Nobody prevents all identity theft. Nobody can monitor every transaction or stop every cyber threat, but LifeLock makes it easy with new Norton security. All you have to do is go to LifeLock.com and put in the code HERD. You get 10% off and a $25 Amazon gift card. Just LifeLock.com. You can call 1-800-LifeLock. Do the same, 1-800-LifeLock, and use the promo code HERD. Again, 10% off first year, plus a $25 Amazon gift card. Promo code HERD, H-E-R-D. Terms apply.